What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Tottenham Hotspur 2, Borussia Dortmund 0, Champions League football under the lights, and honestly, this is one of those nights Spurs fans desperately needed. Coming into this game, there was so much riding on it, not just qualification, not just momentum, but credibility. Tottenham's league form has been poor, confidence was drained, and Thomas Frank was under genuine pressure. You could feel it after the West Ham loss, you could feel it in the stands, and you could feel it online. This wasn't just another Champions League fixture, this felt like a make or break moment, and from the opening minutes, Spurs played like a team that understood that. The intensity was immediately higher than what we've seen in recent weeks. Spurs weren't sitting back, they weren't cautious, they weren't waiting to see what Dortmund would do. They pressed high, they closed spaces aggressively, and they forced Dortmund into rushed passes early on. That's important because Dortmund are a side that normally thrive when they're allowed to build rhythm through their midfield and rotate players in wide areas. What really stood out was how compact Tottenham were without the ball. The distances between the back line, midfield and attack were much shorter, and that allowed Spurs to win second balls and sustain pressure. This is very typical of Thomas Frank's coaching principles, especially from his Brentford teams, where pressing isn't chaotic. It's organised, triggered and collective rather than individual. You could see clear pressing cues, especially when Dortmund tried to recycle possession through their fullbacks. Spurs have also quietly become a very tough team to beat at home in Europe. Even during turbulent domestic periods, Champions League nights in North London tend to bring out a different energy. Spurs came into this game unbeaten in 23 straight home European matches, conceding just 13 goals in that span, and you could sense the players feeding off that environment from the first whistle. There was belief in the way they moved the ball, belief in the way they defended. The red card obviously changes the game, but it's important to say this clearly. Tottenham were already on top before Dortmund went down to 10 men. The red card did not rescue Spurs, it rewarded them. It came from sustained pressure, from forcing Dortmund players into uncomfortable situations, and from attacking with intent down the flanks. Once Dortmund were reduced to 10 men, the game became about intelligence rather than emotion. And this is where Spurs deserve serious credit, because we have seen in the past how badly this club can handle these moments. Too many touches, too much panic, or trying to score the perfect goal rather than the right one. Instead, Spurs widened the pitch, circulated the ball patiently, and repeatedly targeted the spaces left by Dortmund's reshuffled defence. The numerical advantage was used properly, fullbacks pushed higher, midfielders took up half spaces, and the ball kept moving side to side to stretch the block. The first goal felt inevitable. It was the result of pressure, territory and organisation rather than a moment of individual brilliance. And once that goal went in, the entire game shifted psychologically. Dortmund, already a man down, looked deflated while Spurs visibly grew in confidence. The second goal was massive, not just in terms of scoreline, but in terms of game control. Scoring again before half-time meant Spurs could completely dictate the rhythm after the break. At 2-0, Dortmund had to choose between chasing the game with 10 men or sitting deep and protecting the scoreline. Either way, Spurs were in control. The second half was one of the most encouraging things about this performance. Spurs didn't overextend, they didn't chase unnecessary third or fourth goals, they managed the game like a European side should. Possession was recycled intelligently, counter-pressing was used to stop transitions, and defensive positioning was disciplined. Dortmund did try to respond early in the second half with more urgency, but they were restricted to low-quality chances. Whenever they tried to accelerate play, Spurs either won the ball back quickly or forced them into wide, harmless areas. This wasn't a dramatic second half, but it was a professional one, and that's something Tottenham have often lacked. Individually, this was about balance rather than star power. The midfield worked relentlessly to block passing lanes and support the press. The defence stayed compact and dealt with crosses calmly. The forwards didn't force shots, they made runs to open space. This looked like a team with a plan and a shared understanding, and that's been missing at times this season. This result also has huge implications for Tottenham's Champions League campaign. Spurs and Dortmund were level on points going into the game, both hovering around the playoff qualification spots, and a defeat here could have made the final fixtures extremely uncomfortable. Instead, Spurs now have a platform to build from, particularly with their remaining home fixtures in Europe still to come. And then there's Thomas Frank. This was arguably his most important night as Tottenham manager so far. There's been criticism, some fair, some over the top, but performances like this remind people why he was appointed in the first place. He set Spurs up intelligently, he trusted his structure, and the players responded. No one is saying one win solves everything. Tottenham still have issues defensively in the league, consistency is still a problem, and expectations remain high. But nights like this can change the mood around the club very quickly. Confidence spreads, belief returns, and suddenly pressure turns into possibility. Anyway, Tottenham 2, Borussia Dortmund 0, a big European performance, a clean sheet, and a night that might just matter more than it feels right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who was your man of the match? Was that Spurs' best performance under Thomas Frank so far? And is this the type of performance we can finally build on? If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Come on, you Spurs.